Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Thanks for giving us your time in your busy schedule.
Yeah, so busy at the moment, like we all are. So.
Right, listen, Niel, I just got to do some formalities quickly. My name's Andrew McKenna. I'm the founder of the African Turf Academy. I started a series in lockdown just to showcase all the opportunities in the vast golf industry and all the leading role players. I've tried to be getting them on. And Niel is, I class him as the king of rules in South Africa. South Africa, he's too modest. He has some competition, I know that. He's got some good competition out there, but he's the go-to guy with rules in South Africa. African Turf Academy, we have a full-time academy at Silver Lakes in Pretoria, and we now have a new online platform, so if you want to check it out, please do so. But this show is not about me, it's about Niel.
Yeah.
Okay, right, we're going to kick off with some simple questions, Niel.
Okay, cool.
Cricket or rugby?
Rugby.
Okay. Augusta or St Andrews?
Yeah, I've played the St Andrews a few times, so for now I'd have to say Augusta. Because I'd like to get out there and play. But
have you been to Augusta yet?
I haven't been there yet, no. But I love St Andrews. It's just a fantastic place. But for now, I'll play Augusta definitely.
Okay. And just last one for now, Jack or Tiger?
No, Jack. I'm not a Tiger fan at all, so.
Okay. Robert McIntyre's. We get some questions from the audience as we go, but Robert McIntyre, one of our students, is asking Tiger or Rory?
Rory. Again. How's Bob? How are you? Long time no see. Bob used to come out to South Africa and play our tournaments, so good to have you on.
It's not that Robert McIntyre. Robert McIntyre's on our program, but I know the one you're talking. He's Scottish amateur, isn't he?
Yeah, and he turned pro. He's done really well. You know.
Yeah, it's the lefty, isn't it?
Lefty, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's done phenomenally well actually. He was rookie of the year last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was quite a chubby guy when he came out to South Africa, but. Now he's playing well and he's leaned up a bit, so good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Niel. So give us your story. You followed a bit of a similar journey to me in the beginning, but tell us about it.
So basically, you're talking about how I got into golf. Well, I think growing up in South Africa, we play all kinds of sports. So I played provincial baseball when I was really young. We had a tennis court at home, played tennis. We used to go hit balls with my dad at the driving range. And golf really wasn't my main sport when I was young. I played everything else: cricket, squash, a little bit of rugby at school, not much, and a bit of baseball, tennis, really everything. And I only really took up golf when I got kicked out of varsity first year. I went to first year varsity here in Joburg, and all I wanted to do was go play golf. I was about a 7 handicap at the time, so I wasn't any good when I was 18. And then I got kicked out of varsity, and my dad said, why don't you give golf a try? You've got talent at sport, and everybody that I played with seemed to think that I played well, and I could, my ball striking was good. So he said, give 6 months out and see how it goes, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. So, I practiced for 2-3 months, and I was a scratch handicap. My first tournament I actually played at Crown Mines here in Johannesburg. Hugh Bain won the tournament on about 11 under par, but I finished about 9th. That was my first ever golf tournament. Michael was playing the name in South African golf anyway.
I've had him on. Michael was on last week.
Yeah, so maybe he sees us somewhere along the line. So Nick Henning was still playing. So I played my first golf tournament when I was just before I turned 21. And then I had to do national service in South Africa. So I did a year national service up in Petersburg, which is now Polokwane, where Tiff Goosen comes from. And I used to sometimes go practice with him. He didn't really have much to say. I used to say hello to him, and we'd chip and putt together a little bit. I don't think he would even remember who I was, because I was in the Air Force at the time. I used to get to practice just in the afternoons after my national service duty. And then I finished the Air Force, and came out of the Air Force after my year, and I spent the next 2 years playing golf full time before turning pro in 1994. So
okay,
my
and
route
then
into professional golf. Yeah,
and then you became a Sunshine Tour player.
yeah. Then I was a Sunshine Tour player. I played, went to tour school once. I never had to go back, which was nice. I kept my card every year. I got exempt 1 or 2 years in the 7 years that I played, which really wasn't much. I was, between 50th and 65th every year. Didn't, I had good tournaments, but never really consistent enough, and the money wasn't great. You could finish 14 under par for a tournament and make 4,000 rand. So your caddy made more money than you did that week. So that was hard. It was a hard tour to be on. I tried my luck in Canada 1 year, so traveled across to Canada 1 year. Missed my tour card by a few shots, but ended up having the option to pre-qualify and stick around for a while. So the second tournament I pre-qualified for was the BC Tell in Vancouver, and I shot 11 under par there. Finished second or third in the pre-queue, and then got in the tournament, shot 71, 66, 66, 69, and I finished tie third in the end. I made a double bogey on 15, and I was playing with Ian Hutchings from South Africa, who ended up winning that tournament. So that made me enough money to cover my expenses during that 3-month trip. Apart from that, I really just played Sunshine Tour for 7 years until 2001.
Okay, and then you decided to finish playing and then enter the coaching world. Is that right?
No. Yes, I gave up in 2001. My goal was to try to get to Europe within 5 years. I got better every single year, so I decided to give it another 2 years. And then I picked up an injury in my last year. I got a rotator cuff injury. Going up to Zimbabwe, I lifted the shutter on the airplane and pulled the rotator cuff. And so for the next 3-4 months, I didn't play great. I ran out of money, decided to pack it in. So 31 years old, you've only played golf, really. Luckily, I studied, while I was on tour, I actually studied a BCom. So I got a BCom in industrial psychology and business management. While I was playing on tour, I qualified in 98 with that. I had something to fall back on, but still, to try to find a job at 31 that was going to pay the bills. So I was kind of stuck. I looked around for jobs in South Africa. I didn't really want to do the golf course manager role or a pro at a golf course. I'd helped out at the shop at Ram Park when I was learning golf every now and then with Kubi Lekranji when he was short of staff. And sitting in a shop all day was not my thing. So I didn't want to go that route. And I ended up, I used to run youth groups and teach Sunday school at the church. So I always wanted to be involved in children. So I just eventually I ended up going off to South Korea. I went to Seoul for 3 years. I taught English for a year. And then got involved in an international school for 2 years, taught math, science, and computers to high school children in Seoul, in Gangnam style. And then in middle of 2004, I came back to South Africa to teach here in Midrand. I taught at a school in Midrand for 2 years. Loved teaching school, but the money just was really hard to get by on. So my next step was I was offered a position to run a school in China as a headmaster in the same system that I'd worked on in Korea. So I went off to China for a while. I was supposed to be there for 3 years. I needed 3 or 4 months there. It was a bit of a mess, and I came back to South Africa and decided I wanted to get back into golf. So luckily, the position at SAGA at the time, South African Golf Association, at the time came available. This was good timing after I'd waited about 11, 12 months to find anything. So in that interim period, I was reaching the rules of amateur status by teaching a little bit of golf.
So you got your amateur status back while you were in...
I got my amateur status back, while I was in Korea. And then I came back and I played a little bit provincial golf 2007. But before that, while I was teaching, I was trying to make some extra money by giving some golf lessons to the kids at the school. So I did that.
All right. So how did you get into the rules part of the game? which is probably what you're known for now, right?
Say again?
How did you end up getting into the rules of golf? Because that's kind of where you're at now, right?
Yeah. So my role at the moment is manager golf operations, rules and training. And so I teach the RNA level 2 and level 1 seminars here in South Africa, and we get them. People get an RNA certificate for that, and then the level 3, obviously, which the RNA call the Tournament Administrator and Referee School. The RNA need to come out and do those, so that we kind of try to keep the numbers up of the people that are qualified in South Africa, so that we can. So that when they do come out, we have enough people to attend that school. But how I got involved in the rules training was really, I mean, when I applied for the job at SAGA as the Assistant Executive Director, got the job, and the deal was on the table that if I didn't get my rule certificate when the RNA was coming out in that February, then I didn't have the job. So I started in September. RNA came out in February that year and did 2 seminars, or we called them rule schools back then. And I did the one in Benoni, and I passed my exam. So, and then just really from there, the experience is running golf tournaments on behalf of SAGA and now Golf RSA.
Okay. All right. So when I mean, a lot of the audience here are or will be even after we finish live, are potential greenkeepers, current greenkeepers, golf course managers around the world, superintendents, all sorts of levels. And the rules play a big part in course setup and how they're managing their golf course. What mistakes do you see some guys doing when they're setting up a golf course from a rules perspective?
Sure. So, I mean, it's hard for me to really comment on this in that when I go to a golf tournament, to run a golf tournament, I do the course setup. So, and then I go and see what is out there. And then obviously I'll move things around according to what I want. And an example of that is in the new rules, we have these penalty areas, and we can mark anything as a penalty area. So what I have seen is like, and I'm going to use an example like Claytonburg Bay last year, they've made all of their bush area penalty areas. And I understand that it helps to speed up play at the club level. But when I'm coming in to run a golf tournament, I want the course to play as per how it was designed. And if you're adding penalty areas to what should be bush, you're obviously making quite a big difference to the playability of the golf course. The fear factor goes out of the game. So that's obviously, I don't know if that's committee decision or greenkeeping decision, but that's a biggie in the new rules. And then the couple of little things that I see is, I mean, when I go to a golf tournament, the one thing we've got to remove is the plastic liners that are put in holes. Those are not according to the rules of golf, because the rules say that the cup has to be an inch below the surface. And when you put the plastic liner in, there's no inch below the surface. I know it protects the hole, but for tournament golf, that's a no-no. So that is one of the first things we'll look at when we're at a golf tournament. Sometimes we miss it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I notice is the confusion about pin placings, where they are allowed to be placed in relation to the edge of the green, where they're allowed to be placed in relation to the slopes, and also where they're measured from. Where is the front of the green? Maybe you can give us some elaboration on that.
Yeah, so from the RNA, when they do the tournament administrators and referee school, we do a little section on course setup, and that's pretty much standard. So basically, and that's kind of hard to do at coastal level or coastal golf courses. We've got a lot of wind, but basically you want to try and work out where you would be approaching that hole mostly. So from the middle of the fairway, where you'd be approaching that green. So if you can work out that area, and obviously if it was downwind versus into the wind, that spot would change. You might be able to cut the dog leg versus not. So maybe you want to have a look at your holes. What's the prevailing one? Where would you be playing most often approaching that green? And then you draw a straight line from there. And that's to identify the front of the green, right? Yeah. So then you would draw a straight line from that spot to the back middle part of the green. So if you put a spot at the back middle part of the green, you draw a straight line from that point straight to the back middle part of the green. And when you first hit the part of the green, whether that part of the green might be to your right or to your left behind a bunker, that is your entry point. So you might hit the green only 10 paces further on, but the green is perpendicular. The green is starting where you hit that entry point, and then you would pace your paces on left and from there. So if the pin was back right corner and there was a little finger to the back right corner, by the time you got over a bunker that was on that right side of the green, you would have already done maybe 15 or 18 paces. And then the pin is only 5 paces on the green, but from the front of the green, it's 23 paces. So that's the norm. So you want how many on from the front entry part of the green, and then how many from the right side of the green. I have had situations when I've done a pin placement, and I had 25 on, 5 from the left. And when I've gone to check the pin placement the next day, the greenkeeper has gone 25 on from the middle of the green, from the entry point into the green, 25 onto the green, and 5 from the middle of the green to the left. And so we've ended up with a pin on the side of a slope, and not anywhere near where you had put your spot or where you'd wanted the pin to be. So
yes, it's a very confusing part of course setup, that is, for me.
Yeah. So I mean, it's something that you get used to, and there is a set way to do it, I guess. But 25 on, and then you measure from the left side of the green. And so the interesting part about course setup is you might have a pin that from the middle of the fairway looks like it's on the left-hand side of the green, but because there's a little finger on that area, the pin is on the right side of that area of the green. And understand the information that you're trying to give the player is where not to miss the green. So even though the pin looks like it's on the left-hand side of the green, the closest part of that area of the green where there's trouble or a bunker is to the right. So that pin would still be a 25 on, 5 from the right in that section of the green. So
yeah, we've got a hole here at Silver Lakes. I know you know Silver Lakes. It's the 5th hole. It's got 2 fairways, and the green is like a clover.
Yeah.
So you've got all this information that gets confusing, and there's probably no 100% right answer for it, is there?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. So actually interesting, European Tour, I refereed at the Daniel at Leopard Creek in early December, I think, last year. And obviously the 16th hole there, they've changed the tee boxes, so we now have a back right pin and a back right tee box and a back left tee box, and the angle is 45 degrees difference, or maybe not quite, maybe 30 degrees difference. So in the yardage book, it actually has a right tee box marking and a right tee box entry into the green in the yardage book on the left. We don't go that detail, but yeah, so that's interesting. Like for that hole, if you're approaching from the one fairway or the other fairway, it completely changes how many paces on your pin is, you know. And so you might need to have a double box for your pin placement. Left fairway, it's 15 on. Right fairway, it's only 10 on. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at club level, we can get away with that.
Okay, and what about the placing of the hole? So the hole gets placed a certain amount of distance from the edge of the green, from physically, and from a slope.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've asked the RNA this question, and if you speak to somebody like Bruce Young, who I work with, and that's refereed at the British Open, I think he's done 14, 15 of them, he says there is no legal pin. They put the pin on the green. It is on the green, it's on the green. Obviously, you don't want to be less than maybe 2 meters or from the side, but he said at times it can be 2 meters from the side. But the key is to keep it on a flattish area where you're not got too much slope around the hole, and that if you do hit a ball 3 meters beyond the hole, it's not going to roll back down a hill and then past the hole. And the hard part, I guess, for a greenkeeper is that your course can completely change. And when it's soft and slow, a pin placement might be fine. If it's near the base of a slope or just up the top of a slope, that would be fine. But as soon as the course gets harder and firmer, then those pin placements are not appropriate. And I think often you do get that, is that a greenkeeper said, but we've had this pin placement 1,000 times and it's fine. Yeah, but the greens weren't running at 13, and you had had rain, and now you haven't had any rain for 4 or 5 weeks. So all of a sudden, it's faster, harder, firmer running. All of a sudden, that pin placement is not a valid or appropriate pin placement. So taking into consideration those kind of things. So definitely, the faster your greens get and the firmer, and we pretty much all know this, the less pin placements you have on each green, because the slopes getting increased. So,
but a guideline would be to say 3 meters from the edge of a green and making sure the ball can stop next to the hole. I think the USGA on their website, they say the ball must be able to stop next to the hole at a decent pace. I think that's their wording or something like that.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I had a situation at Silver Lakes actually when we ran one of the senior events there, and on the par 4 up the hill, no, it was on the back nine, like say third last hole, the fourth last hole, the little par 4 up the hill, and then I put the placement there, and then I got the greenkeeper out to have a look because I was a bit worried about it, and the main thing was for him when we checked it is that the ball's not speeding up when it's getting to the hole. That it's so if it's speeding up around the hole, then you're in trouble. If it can slow down when it gets near the hole, then it's fine. And obviously, if the greens are fast, then it's going to be, and the slopes are severe, then it's going to be speeding up. And if it's slow, then it's still going to be slowing down. So it might be a good placement when it's slower, but not when it's faster.
Yeah, but it's such an important part of the art of being a good golf course manager is to understand all these things, right? Because so often we talk about how the grass grows and how the machines run and how they cut the grass and fertilizers and chemicals, but we don't talk about the playability of a golf course. And that's ultimately what it's all about.
Yeah, you've done everything right, and then you mess it up by putting a wrong pin. And nobody notices all the good things you've done. They will only remember the 2 bad pins that you put on the golf course for the day. Yeah. So one of the things we do, I mean, it obviously changes, and you want to double check it, and so when we do a course check in the morning, and I know greenkeepers go, but you're not trusting me. You don't think I'm going to do a good job. It's not a case of that. It's like if I got something wrong, or something is wrong on the golf course, I get it in the neck. The greenkeeper doesn't. At my tournaments, the greenkeeper doesn't get into in any trouble or a mouthful. I'm going to get it. So I do a course check every morning, an hour before. We start an hour before first tee off time, same as what the Sunshine Tour would do. And we just double check your pins. I mean, I might have done the pin placement, so I'll hop off the cart and just have a look, maybe roll a couple of balls and go, no, I'm just not, it's just a little dicey, this pin. I'm just going to maybe just stay away from it and get the greenkeeper out and just move it 1 more meter down the hill, you know. Rather be safe than sorry. So, because for the sake of 1 meter, it just saves you a whole lot of hassles, you know.
Absolutely. All right, so you've got obviously you had your playing career, you've got your rules, but you've converted to becoming a tournament referee. What is the difference? What are the major differences between being a knowledgeable rules guy and being a tournament referee?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you've done a level 2 or a level 3 rules seminar, you understand maybe the rules or where to find the rules in the rule book. But it's that practical knowledge of how to apply that when you go on the golf course. How do you deal with a rule situation? Not saying that I'm perfect, and how to sort out a situation. So you have to take those rules and then be able to apply them. And the only way you really do that is getting on the golf course and making mistakes, or being in situations where you have to think outside the box. If somebody asks you a question and you're going, I don't know the answer, and I'm standing in the middle of the fairway and the guy is asking me for a ruling, and how you deal with that situation. So when you do a rule seminar, they teach you how fast to work your way around the whole decision book, so you can find that answer quickly. But there are other options: phoning a friend, checking your audience, sometimes standing outside of the situation and just looking back and going, okay, wait, what is he actually asking? Because sometimes you're in that situation, the player's pushing you for an answer, and you shout out the first thing that comes to your mind, and then you realize you're actually dealing with the wrong part of that ruling. So the experience is the key. And once you've done a rules seminar and you know your way around a rule book, it's really important to try to get out on a golf course and just see what can go wrong. And the problem with getting experience as a rules official is that you can be on a golf course for 12 hours and do 3 rules, you know, so you don't get experience very quickly. It's not like there's 1,000 rulings, and once you've done 2 tournaments, you're going to have this experience, you know. But that being said,
but the rule seminar throw things at you, don't they?
Yeah, we try at the level 3. We do a practical on all the seminars, which really helps you to see it visually. But at level 3, the TARs, we actually put people in the situation. We ask them questions, and we almost try and trick them in them giving a ruling, so that they realize what that pressure feels like, and how a ruling can go awry pretty quickly. So,
okay, before we go on to high profile stuff that you've dealt with, what is the trickiest rule in the rule seminars? In the theoretical side, I've heard some funky ones in my life, but what's your trickiest rule?
Sure, I can't really think off the bat, but at the rule seminar, almost every single time we do a rule seminar, when we talk about taking an unplayable in the bunker, so a player hit his ball into the lip of the bunker in the sand, and then he has to take unplayable in the bunker, invariably the person will ask me, what happens if it's not plugged in the lip of the bunker? Well, in the sand in the bunker, what happens is it's plugged in the lip of the bunker, and now the player has to drop the ball back in play, but he's not allowed to drop it in the bunker because his ball's not lying in the bunker and it's embedded in the general area. And then everybody always asks that question, and that becomes if there's no option in that situation, because you have to mark the position of the ball and then drop the ball within 1 club length relief area, not nearer the hole, and there is no part of that. There's no relief area that isn't in the bunker, which means the player doesn't have an option to drop the ball back in play. So you'd have to take unplayable and go back on the line. So he has to take a penalty relief in that situation. And so that's always a question that always gets asked in the rules seminar. For me, the hardest part of the rules is, and especially in the new rules, is the putting green and the flag stick, and what happens in the ball that's moving on the green hits a flag stick or hits a player, and there's accidental and there's purposely hitting it. So in the new rules, I find that quite confusing because I never know what the answer is. Also, you don't deal with those rules every single time you do a tournament. Almost never. I've never had to deal with that rule in a tournament. So it's, for me, I find that tricky personally. I always have to open my book for that. Rather, because I'm bound to get it wrong. It just doesn't sit clear in my head, you know. And
the rule book is like a book of law, isn't it? Some rules cross over to the other rule, and you've got to mix 2 rules together to get the answer.
Yeah, especially when you start dealing with a ball that's hit into a bushy area, and then the guy plays a provisional, and then he finds the original, but it's unplayable, and then he wants to go and play the provisional. And then you have to explain to the guy, but you found the ball, so the provisional is off, is not in play anymore. Now you have to deal with the lost ball rule, and the guy can't understand why, and he's hit a good one down the middle of the fairway. He doesn't want to go back to the tee and have to hit another one off the tee, you know. So yeah, sometimes those rules are, the lost ball, the searching for a ball, provisional ball, and they're all roll into one.
So one of the guests we had on yesterday, Chris Haspel, who was the course manager, and he built Castle Stewart. I don't know if you played Castle Stewart. I don't think you have yet, but they tried to make sure that golfers find their ball, so they built a golf course that was beautiful and full of character, but you don't lose your ball, so people can have fun. And I think that's an important aspect when you're setting up a golf course, that you don't make it too brutal, but the game becomes so complicated that you have to bring complicated rules like this, and then you maybe don't enjoy the playability of the game anymore.
100%. You know, I think that's one of the fear factors of people coming into golf, is that the game is so hard and there were so many rules. So I think with the rewrite of the rules, they made that simpler to understand the rules, because all the rules are really more similar than they used to be when you used to have 3 different situations covering the same kind of ruling. So they made that more simple, and then we try to speed up play a little bit, or the RNA and USGA have. And then, making golf courses more playable, like the penalty area option now, where you can mark a bushy area as a penalty area. It makes it easier in some ways, and you don't have to, if you've got a really narrow hole with bush left and right, where you don't have a guy has to try to get a ball in play. If you make it penalty area, he hits one, goes down there, goes 2 club lengths, and continue to play the hole. But obviously, tournament golf, you want to play it according to how it was designed. So.
Okay, so a bit of a tip for the golf course managers and the students: don't try and set your course up so difficult that it doesn't become fun and becomes too complex. All right, so Neville Van Olden, who I think you know from Leopard Creek, he's just left Leopard Creek. He's just saying, "How's it?" Sends my regards to Neil. Okay,
I want to touch on it while we're here. So with Leopard Creek last year at Daniel, we were finishing in the dark, so Neville was there, and we were finishing in the dark because we're taking 5.5 hours to play. And the golf course was fantastic condition. Well done, Neil, and Leopard Creek. But the greens were running at 13.5, almost 14. The rock hard, the rough was up, and so the players had to take extra care to hit fairways, to when you're around the hole putting. So it just slows down play. So like you're saying, if you make it too hard, not only is it not fun for the players, but it also slows down your rounds at your golf course. So that makes it even less fun, and you're getting less people onto your golf course because it's taking 5.5 hours to play. So the easier you make it for your club golfers, obviously the better, or the more user-friendly, rather, let's say.
Exactly. One of the gentlemen that's watching, Howard Swan, is a friend of mine now. He's a golf course architect from the UK, and he's a big believer in making the golf courses player friendly, and he argues that some architects tend to design courses too difficult for some reason. Yeah. It's supposed to be a game that is fun and enjoyable. Absolutely no one likes looking for a golf ball.
It's true. I don't mind looking for your golf ball.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you've done Leopard Creek, but I know you've done some other big tournaments. What is your biggest tournament you've refereed at?
Yeah, so I've done the SA Open obviously most years because SAGA or Golf RSA, we own the SA Open, and I've done Joburg Opens, etc. But my biggest tournament by far, I did US Open at Shinnecock Hills in 2 years ago. So what was that? 2018. And that was just incredible. You know.
That's the one that Kupka won, right?
Kupka won, yeah.
Okay, and I know you. I obviously know some of these stories, but just for fun, tell us about the situation with Dustin Johnson.
Okay, so I understand this. So as a my first ever major as a referee, the only thing you don't want to do is be on TV. Despite what everyone thinks, it's the only thing didn't want to be. So I was on duty the first hole on the sixth hole, first day, sixth hole at Shinnecock Hills. And I knew Tiger Woods was playing with Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas. And I could see the fourth hole goes kind of up the hill, and then the fifth hole's a par 5 that sweeps around back to this side. And then they play my hole, the sixth hole. It's a little dogleg with a kind of like a fescue kind of area that kind of stops you at the run out. And there's a bit of a waste area on the right. So tricky little hole, and then a pond 80 meters short of the green. Excuse me, I don't have COVID. I have this slight asthma cough. So anyway, so I'm sitting, my duty point was halfway up the fairway. As glamorous as it sounds to referee at the US Open, you get a little camping chair, which you fold out and you put it in a bag, and you walk out to your hole and you put it on the side of the fairway with a cap on, and you sit out there for your duty time, might be 6 or 8 hours. And that's it. That's where you sit all day. So I was on duty halfway up the fairway, and all I did was I saw this group coming, and I was like, when these guys are going through for the day, I'm fine. Then you can give me a ruling, but this is the group that I don't want to give a ruling to. I'm never this lucky. So you see them go up 4, and the crowds were obviously Tigers playing. They're huge. They go up 5, they come down 6, and DJ hits his ball left, and it comes rolling into the fescue about 50, 60 meters from me. And I hop off my deck chair because I've done nothing all day, so I need to go do something. We start looking for the ball. The spotter saw the ball running into an area, and so so we start looking for the ball. Eventually, DJ, Tiger, Justin Thomas, Rich Beam, Curtis Strange, cameraman, everybody, we looking for the ball. Interesting thing was that DJ came into the situation, asked the spotter where did the ball run in. The spotter pointed the direction of where the ball was, and DJ and his caddy kind of moved over to the side, went nowhere near that area to look for the ball, because if they caused the ball to move in the old rules, they would have been penalized. So there were so many people looking for the ball that they were bound to find it. So, you know, you're in the situation now. I know I'm already nervous. I've got a red cap on and a white USGA shirt and blue pants, and you're
on TV, because I remember I was watching, and there you were.
I start my clock to work out the ball search, and I get to about 2 minutes 30 seconds. I've got a radio on, and the people in the room say, "Has anybody got a time on the ball search?" Somebody else says 2 minutes 37. I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I've got it at." And it wasn't 10 seconds later, and Rich Beam says, "I think I found your ball." So and he was commentating. So he goes, I wanted to run away at this point, and I was standing there watching, and so I just watched what happened. DJ went over there, marked the position of the ball, picked it up, said, "Yep, it's mine." And then next words out of his mouth made me go cold. He's like, "Can I get a rules official, please?" And I'm like standing 15 meters away with a red cap on. There's no ways I could run away. So I said, "Yeah, I'm here. How can I help you?" And he said to me, "So what do I do if he's found my ball and he stood on it?" So I said, "Well, I mean, and the old rules are slightly different." So I explained to him what the rule was. If we know the exact position, we need to replace the ball. If we didn't know the exact position, we needed to drop the ball. But first, we have to determine whether the ball has moved or not. And the rule was pretty clear, so that you have to be certain that it moved in order to. Because if you're not sure, then obviously the ball, you're going to play it from the where it is. So then DJ said to me, "Yeah, but it must have moved because the guy stood on it, you know." And I knew in my head I have to ask all these questions to Rich Beam in front of all these cameras that were going on. Tiger's standing there, Justin Thomas is kind of there, the caddies are there, Curtis Strange is there, you know, and unfortunately we know all these things, and I know that 5 billion people are watching. And I wasn't interested in making a mistake, but I knew I had to ask questions like, "All right, so when did you stand on it? Did you kick it? Do you think you nipped it with your toe? Do you think it moved position, or didn't you? How sure are you?" And I was not going there, not in front of all that on my first day at the US Open. So I went on the radio and I called for a rover, who's the head referee, and luckily he was 30 meters away. He walked into the situation. He didn't ask a single question. He said to DJ, "Yeah, you can just drop it on top." They marked the position. He dropped it within a club length, and he played the ball from on top of the grass. So I was a bit confused by that, but anyway, luckily I didn't have to deal with that situation. And then I asked the next day, how come those questions weren't asked? Because I teach the rules of golf, and I teach people that they need to ask these questions. And the guy from the PGA said, "Listen, on the PGA Tour, if somebody causes the ball to move or stands on a ball in a ball search, we determine that it has moved, and we just deal with it straight away. It just saves them the time of having to find out all the information." So I wasn't aware of that modus operandi that they go through. So luckily I did pass it on to somebody else, but it was the most nerve-wracking thing of my life. And but you know, luckily I bailed on it.
but it comes back down to some of the other things that you see flying around, whether you're playing rules. It's about sticking to the basics, isn't it? If you follow the basics, even under the extreme pressure, you'll get through it, right?
Yeah, sure. But, you know, you're on the radio and you're also saying things. But when your mind is... So the hard part about the rules of golf is that there's set terminology. So on the radio, before I was asked to go into that situation, I actually said something over the radio, which I got in golf terminology is kind of all wrong. I can't remember what it was, but I literally said, does he have to recreate the lie or not? Which is not what I was actually thinking, but it was what I was trying to get across. And then I was called to the rule. So that was also probably why I was just called the rover, to get out get out of jail free. That was an incredible experience from a greenkeeping perspective. And I know I met one or two guys that were South African that were helping there. I could hear them talking while I was walking to my hole.
There was two of our students were working that tournament.
Yeah, so
I think he's watching. Justin Harrison came on here a minute ago. I don't know if he's still on, but he worked Shinnecock that year.
Yeah, I was walking to my hole and I heard him talking, and I was like, "Where are you from?" And then he told me he's helping. I don't know which guy it was, but so we chatted quick. But I mean, walking the course, I got there on the Monday or Tuesday morning, got my accreditation, and I just walked around the golf course for 2 days before we had our rules meeting. The manicuring of that golf course is just incredible. I don't think you can understand that even from a Leopard Creek. It's a major, and what they do to get ready for that. They had the mesh in the middle of the fairways where all the balls would run down into the hollows. There was mesh there for the practice round. There wasn't a piece of GUR anywhere on that golf course. The rough was incredible. The fairways were great, but if you rolled this much off the fairway into the rough, you were in this thick grass, and the greens were rock hard. Just incredible, the manicuring and what they put into the golf course to get it ready for a major. So I think that was for me the most incredible thing. You know?
And are you gonna get asked again, or is that ruling of yours with Dustin ruined it for you?
No, I was supposed to go to Winged Foot now. So I was going this year again. Look, I didn't get asked, so let's clarify. Golf RSA got asked, and because of my role at the moment, I was put forward to represent Golf RSA. And this
Winged Foot's happening, right? Winged Foot's been told it's happening without crowds.
It's going to October, yeah. So I think, but I can't see that I'll go now. But it would have been good to do another one. But Shinnecock, it's great, you know. So. Look, the actual job is rather boring. I did 5 rulings in the 4 days. I bailed on one, so I really did 4. I did one for Sergio, one for Oliver Fisher. A couple of little things. Guys hit it up against the out of bounds fence, which has got mesh, and he asked if he can get relief. So really, you know, actual dropping a ball out of a position. I think I did 3.
Okay, we obviously when we're talking about someone who's as passionate about golf as you are. Time flies, but we're going to need to get through a few more questions. The new rules. Obviously, we can talk for 2 hours on this. We've only got about 10 minutes left. What do you enjoy about the new rules? What don't you enjoy about them? Do you think they're improvements? Do you think they've gone? Give us a little overview.
Okay, so I think that I think in general the rules are much better. I think it's a lot simpler to understand, and I always talk about that if you took an embedded ball in the old rules, or a ball lying on the wrong putting green, or a ball on a cart path, or in a ground and repair situation, in the old rules you had to deal with those 3 situations differently. In the new rules we treat them all the same. We've got a reference point and 1 club in the relief area, and it's full relief. Whereas the old rules, you get nearest point for an embedded ball, only for live the ball from a putting green, full relief from a abnormal course condition situation. So I think that is a lot more simple to understand. I think the penalties that we get now are less with regards to double hitting yourself with a ball, accidentally hitting your caddy, and I think those all make sense to golfers. There was no point me double hitting a ball and then getting a penalty for hitting it a second time when the ball's gone over my head backwards. You know, I've had no benefit from that. So obviously it's a little tricky in that you've got accidental movement now. So obviously if I hit the ball, hits a tree, comes back, and I swat it with my hand, that's not accidental. So it's that's a slight little change. But I think, you know, that and the flag stick is all interesting, and it's helped a little bit. I do think that obviously with any change, you're not sure how it's going to pan out as you go through those changes. And if you go into an RNA website and you see the clarifications they've released on the rules in the last year, the rules obviously aren't in their books perfect, and you didn't realize how it was going to pan out. So for example, the flag stick, the whole point of the flag stick staying in the hole was to speed up play. I don't think people realized, or the USGA or the RNA realized where we would sit, where you would have one player leaving it in the hole and one player removing it, one keeping it in for 20 meter putts, removing it for 3-foot putts. So I don't believe that has really sped up the game, which was, and you didn't know that until it was practical. But I do think that obviously there are clarifications around the dropping on the back on the line. There's certain little changes around the hole. I don't know if you're aware that we changed, well, the rule around the hole and the putting a plate at the bottom of the hole. Now they have to sink the hole at least 4 inches below the surface. But now, and you're not allowed to have anything attached to the flagstick in the old rules, but now they're allowing for a plate to go on the bottom of the flagstick, so that when you pull the flagstick out and the ball is in the hole, the ball will come out the hole, like a practice putting green flagstick. You know, you got that little plate at the bottom.
Okay. And is that for now? Is that because of the virus, or is it?
No, well, that's for now, but it also was a rule change in January, or a clarification. So because people were putting their hands in the hole without pulling the flagstick out and ruining the hole. So now with those plates at the bottom, they're obviously the same circumference as the hole. So that was a slight change. So lots of little clarifications before we get to the next version, which was always a norm every 4 years to slightly amend things. But mostly I think that the rule changes are good. The dropping rule, I know it's awkward. I personally think that maybe just standing erect and holding your arm down the side rather than bending over to your knee would be a better option. So maybe,
it's almost like placing now, isn't it? You almost place from your knee. You're almost placing it.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that is when they did the proposed rule changes, we were going to have to drop the ball from any height. So you could have dropped it from 2 inches above the ground, and then at the last minutes, literally in the December before the release in the January, they changed that because I guess that would be too close to placing. So. So the dropping rule is awkward, but I do understand that you're trying to keep it in a relief area. My other thing is, I think that, the only other thing I think is that the 3-minute ball search is so fast. You know, it really is. Maybe they need to go 4.
But also, I think they've taken away the intricacy of yellow and red stakes. I think yellow and red stakes. Obviously, it was complicated, but it had a playability impact, doesn't it? Huge, actually.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, obviously, you still got red and yellow stakes as an option, like TPC Sawgrass 17. It's still yellow. You don't want that, or Leopard Creek number 18. You don't want an island-style green where you hit it onto the green, it rolls off the back, and then you drop it green side. Because if you took TPC 17 and you had that, it would ruin the hole. You know, the guys would just hit it, went in the water, drop it 2 club lengths, and you could still knock it in the hole for a 3. So there are still the yellow options, but the default is switched around from being yellow to being red.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it had all gone to penalty areas.
No, so you still got a red penalty area, yellow penalty area. But you've taken away the either side option for the red penalty area unless you put a local rule in. So that's another interesting thing, that you don't have that either side. You need that equilateral option in a red penalty area anymore unless you put a local rule. So at Silver Lakes, for example, where you've got double fairways with a penalty area in the middle, it might be worthwhile having a look at giving an option on that hole to drop equilaterally, where in the old rules it was built into the rule. It now has to be a local rule. So. Okay.
All right. Well, we can talk about the rules all day, and it's the idea of getting you on, but time ticks by. But I want to just move on to, obviously, you went through the playing, and then you dabbled in teaching, and you found the rules, and being part of a large established association. So your journey was not directed in one direction in the first place, and that's what I want to try and get across here. Is that if you enter African Turf Academy or the golf industry or whatever, you don't have to stick to one industry. The golf industry is so broad that there's so many opportunities, and you can hear the passion coming out of your from what you do now, and it's great. And it's same with the other guys I've had on. So it's just a great example of keeping your eye out for what really fits your personality and your to help you stay in the industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, I mean, for me, my life experience is that I played golf, and while I was playing golf, I did a BCom, and when I stopped playing golf, luckily I had a BCom because I was able to go teach in Korea where you needed either a 4-year degree or a teacher's diploma. So luckily I was able to do that. And the same thing when I came back to South Africa, I could teach without a higher diploma in education because I had a higher degree than that. And when I remember clearly when I went to Korea, when I taught English for my first year, and then I taught, and then I went to an international school my next 2 years, and I taught math, science, and computers at an international school. So because the teaching English was literally a dog's job. You know, you worked until 9:30, 10 o'clock every night, 6 days a week. But when I went for that interview and I walked out of the interview and they told me that I had the job, I remember walking down the street back to the subway station and just realizing that all the things that I had done in my life had kind of added up to me getting this job. You know, the studying, the teaching Sunday school and enjoying working with kids. You know, the hard work ethic that you get as being a tour pro, or most tour pros, or maybe not most, some tour pros. That all of the things that I had done had qualified me for being able to go into that interview and get that job. And I think that's life. If you keep on adding to yourself, whether it's a rules seminar, greenkeepers course, playing the game of golf, doing a Microsoft driver's license, learning all those packages, it doesn't matter. You keep on adding onto yourself. You'll eventually find where you slot in, you know. So for me, I enjoy running golf tournaments, but it's not my passion. I enjoy teaching, and now I'm teaching the rules. That's probably the part I enjoy the most about my job, actually teaching the rules. Being a rules official is long hours, and you don't do many rulings. But you know, so I've kind of so just keep adding.
Yeah,
keep on adding on top of yourself for skills wise, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Was the second last question I had for you. You've answered it now, but it's the advice you would give to the students entering the industry. And what you're saying there is study and keep studying and keep adding and keep keeping your options open and keep following the channels that it can take you, and you'll find your sweet spot eventually. Yeah,
it's like the rules. I mean, I've been doing some webinars which are open to anybody, and even if it's just an hour and a half of learning the rules and getting a little feel for the rules, and then getting yourself a rule book and reading it, like we've spoken about, knowing the rules helps you to set up your golf course. Whether it's defining penalty areas or knowing where to stake your penalty areas.
So where can they find you on webinar? Where can the people watching or listening to this afterwards find your webinars?
I will pop you a mail if you want, and then you can send it out to whoever. I don't know how else to really do it, with the link for the Zoom call. I'm doing a tournament conditions and course setup one on Friday at 2 o'clock. It's run about 2 hours this Friday. Okay. Yeah, send me a link and I'll post it on our social media, because there's some other guys. And then I'll add you to my mail. What's the word? Recipients for the ones that come up. And if you want to just forward it on. Yeah, they're free, and you just got to log on and spend 2 hours listening to my voice, and hopefully I'm not coughing too much. And Jennifer Jager, do you know her? I'm not. Yeah, great. That's Dylan Fratelli's mom. Hi, Jen.
Okay. So too many South African pros hit thousands of balls each day and leave high school. Yeah, that's true. So the tertiary education critical, keeping your options open going forward in your career critical.
You know, so many players today don't even go to high school.
I know.
You know? So,
and it's so difficult to make it as a player.
I don't think people really understand. I know I've taken one of the things I do in my job is I get to take our squad over to the UK every year most years to the British Amateur and maybe one or two other tournaments, and I try to relay stories about how hard it is to make it on tour. I'll tell a story. We went to play Royal Dublin last year, I've used borrowed clubs, and I told the boys, no, the year before actually, I had Jaden Shape in my group, Vulko wasn't there, a couple of other guys, and we went and played, and I said, listen, if I beat any of you guys with borrowed clubs, I'm sending you guys home as a joke. And I shot 1 under par around Royal Dublin. First time I seen it with borrowed clubs, and only one of the boys beat me. So I said, like, okay, a couple of days later, we went to play Port Monaco. I said, if I beat you today, 2 days in a row, you're going home, you know? And to try and explain to the guys, I haven't been on tour for 19 years. I'm using borrowed clubs, and you're able to put a score on the board. It's not that I couldn't play the game. You have to be so good to make it out there. It's not whether you can play the game. You just got to be that cut above. And if you're not the cut above, then and I don't know how to explain that. Like you can walk onto the range and watch Jaden hit a ball, watch Vulko hit a ball, watch Brandon Stone hit a ball, and just watch and go, that guy can play. And then you watch another guy on the range go, no, and might make the same sound. There's just something different about it, how they carry themselves. You know, that there's a confidence and
whether they enjoy the life, whether they enjoy the traveling life, the loneliness, the independency, the getting on airplanes, in hotels. It's all sorts of. There's so many aspects to it. So I've known lots of players over the years who have been amazing golfers but didn't enjoy the life, and some guys who haven't been so good, who love the life and managed to improve. Anyway, so thanks for your time, Niel. Actually, Jennifer's saying that no amateur golfer should be allowed to enter an amateur event without being at school, but a lot of guys these days say homeschooling, don't they? Homeschooling.
Yeah, look, we've discussed that point, and you can't deny somebody to play a game of golf or tournament golf. So it's their choice at the end of the day. You know? You tell a parent that his kid can't play a tournament because he doesn't go to school. You know, but in an ideal world, maybe. But you know.
Yeah. But education is important. All right, Niel, thank you very much for your time. It's been brilliant. How do people get hold of you? Do you have Twitter handles? Do you have Instagram? Do you have?
I'm just Niel Homann at Facebook. I had to set up an Instagram account just to do this, so mostly just Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
all right, but I'll forward on the links to any of your webinars if you can send them to me.
Perfect. Great. Thanks for having me on. I hope it was worthwhile.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, it was brilliant. What I do is I record this, I put it on our YouTube, and then I'm going to put it on as a podcast so anyone can listen to it. It's interesting stuff we talk about.
Great. Perfect. Thanks,
everyone. All right, Niel. Thanks a lot for your time.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.